Hello, I'm Corey Good, and welcome to SSP Update Explanations. This is a series where we're diving deeper into my updates and uh, covering them in a lot more detail and also giving you opportunities to ask questions of your own. So, in these episodes, make sure you go below and comment, but also ask questions that you have, and you never know, you may see your name and question brought up in a future episode. I'm here today with my good friend, Mike Wiskoski, who is
Hello.
helping me take care of getting this information out uh, as well as possible. He's been working really hard on Ascension Works TV, all of the development he's done on his own, and he's done an amazing job. Please also comment below the comments about how you feel about the new platform he's built for us. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. Thanks. Yeah, this is great to get a chance to talk to you. And I feel like this is also very important because I know, we see a lot of reactions from people coming in, and we can kind of see from the emails people have, people struggle more with some ideas than with other ideas. And it's helpful that we can help address people's concerns a little bit and give maybe a bigger picture context to some of what is kind of heavy information that's some of this that you've been releasing. And you've been talking about the idea of a solar event and a cataclysm around it, going back many years now. And I think that sort of is the culmination of what the raw contact describes as the end of a cycle. And I think that it'd be appropriate for us to dive in a little bit about both the philosophy of why and how this is happening, and also some of the specifics. And I'll start out with some questions that we can go into more of the specifics of what you're actually are shown, because we got a number of questions around the solar event specifically that I haven't asked you yet, and it'd be good to break apart some of the bigger challenges people have right now. So to start with, I think it would be a fair question to ask. It doesn't really make sense to call this the end of a cycle if everything's just going to continue as normal as people seem to want it to. It's kind of surprising that so many people are very hopeful that they can maintain their, the life that they've built for themselves and up until they die. But, everything is temporary in this life. This is just what we've come to expect. And we're in a state right now on the planet where there's a lot of enslavement, a lot of suffering. And it's because of a lot of control systems that are in place, and people don't necessarily have a bigger picture, a perspective that the control systems do need to be dismantled somehow for us to create a new Earth and create peace and prosperity on this planet. And this great shift that we're seeing unfold in our society is connected to this shift that's unfolding in consciousness that's going to lead to this inevitable shift that will have a new Earth and a new kind of energy that we're living in. So I'd like to get into the details eventually, but first I'd like to start with just the idea of the polarization around this concept of the solar flash that some people have been so much pursuing a hopeful interpretation that they want to be able to believe that they can fly around afterward and not have to worry about food or money as soon as this solar event happens. And then there's the flip side of the people who are very, very much afraid that this is the end of their life, or they have to interpret this as the end of their life, and they have to interpret this as something that's not very positive at all, because of the fact that they're very attached to their lives as they know them. But you've always said that the truth is somewhere in the middle, and that we're experiencing kind of a balance of these two extremes in order to sort of catalyze our consciousness right now at this time. Do you have any more thoughts on this polarity that we're experiencing in the community?
I think just a lot of it has to do with dogma, and it also has to do with, back when I originally delivered the information about the solar event, people were like, bring it now, we want it now. And then now everyone's like, well, because we had COVID and everybody went through such a crappy time during COVID, the beings have decided we don't need the solar flash. So there's humans, humans, right? Information is just information. It is your perspective when you consume it that makes it fear porn or hopium. Now, in this solar flash, there will be cataclysms on the planet. There will be floods. There will be electronics will be taken out. And when electronics are taken out, you know, water pumps are electrical. Water won't be pumped to your house. So how do you drink? That's the most important thing. I mean, these are all things that people are very fearful about. And the the reason you're finding this information out before it happens is so you can come up with a plan. Um, this has happened many, many times on this planet and in our solar system. We're overdue for it now. Sticking your head in the sand and saying, oh, la, 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 I'm not listening to it. It's scary. I'm only going to listen to stuff that's positive because I might accidentally manifest it. You know, that's, that's, you're creating a little reality bubble for yourself where you can sit and suck your thumb and be comforted instead of preparing for what is happening. You know, I'm very curious what may have happened during the times of Noah when he delivered the information that this event was going to occur. And, you know, I wonder if humans reacted as they are now, or if, you know, if they were like, oh, we can't listen to this man, he is talking horrible fear porn, everyone do not listen to this guy. If you listen to it, you might actually make it happen. You know, the solar event is should be seen as an opportunity for us to start over and do things right. The last cycle, during the times of Noah, the big flood, and the one previous, humans keep deciding to make the same mistakes and creating the same type of society. So this is a cycle to where, you know, we have to go through the chaos, to have, you know, any type of growth, which is really sad, but evolution occurs through chaos. And this chaos gives us an opportunity to evolve. And if we head into it fearfully, it, you know, it's not going to, we're not going to have a positive influence on it. Um, you know, people are going to die, um, but people are going to die in floods and these different events, but you're going to die. It may not be in 10 years, it may be in 30, 40, 50 years, but you're going to die. When this solar event happens, we're not going to have transcendental powers right off to where we can float around in the sky like Superman and read everybody's minds. It's a slow process, and it's not a process any of us will complete in one lifetime. We are going to live and die many times after the solar event in this new cycle. And we're going to grow in a higher density consciousness and gain more and more access to it, but it's not going to happen in a flash. We're not going to go from being these self-destructive beings on this planet to immediately being angels floating around and chuckling about how we used to be. It's a long process. And if I hate to disappoint people because they have all of these ascension religions and religious beliefs that they've built up over the years, taken 3 or 4 different people's informations and hodgepodged them together to create their own truth. None of that stuff is really going to serve you. You've right now is a time to kind of break free of your truth and join in on the rest of the battle that the mass consciousness is waging. Most of the mass consciousness is still asleep, but those of us who are awakened need to be working to change the mass consciousness in a positive way and influence it, and not just create a little bubble of reality where we think that if we create a bunch of hocus pocus kind of stories about the solar event and the negative ETs, that somehow it's going to come about just because we imagined it together. That's not how it works. You know, first, to make something happen, first you have the thought and the imagination. Everything in this room was a part of someone's imagination before it was a part of reality. But it never would have been in my room if they didn't do the physical work and physically make it happen. So I've really kind of given up on the people that are, you know, sticking their fingers in their ears every time you talk about the solar flash, or it is all a bunch of esoteric religious hocus pocus that we've put on top of uh, everything. Just like we did it with other religions before we came into the esoteric kind of movement. It's just human programming and human nature. The whole point of knowing all of this stuff before it happens is to be able to respond to it in the proper way and not react to it when it happens.
That's a huge point. I really feel like the attitudes that we're carrying are directly connected to our ability to be useful in the world around us and to create a better world around us as the time comes for that. There was a quote in the Law of One where they were in session 14, they were asking about a device that helps with longevity. And Ross said, there is not at this time any reason to include efforts along these distortions towards longevity, but rather to encourage distortions towards seeking the heart of self. And they kind of use that concept of seeking the heart of self to describe the spiritual process that we're all going through of seeking what is it that it's actually holding us back, and what is it that we're actually experiencing in the present moment that we're not dealing with. Because once we get in tune with ourselves, then we can actually get in tune with our role and the path that we're on and what we're actually here to do and accomplish with other people. So it seems like this opportunity to be reminded to focus on the spiritual side of things, heal ourselves first, is also a part of this process of then helping to co-create a better reality for us.
If we focus on ourselves right now and heal our traumas, and when you heal your traumas, your insecurities disappear. As I've started doing more and more of my inner work, some of the people I was working with, they started getting uncomfortable because they liked the insecure, unsure me. They said it's humble, it's good. And as I started doing more of the inner work and dealing with my traumas, the insecurities just disappear, and it made people very uncomfortable. That is what we're supposed to be doing right now. Getting rid. If you work on your trauma and do the inner work right now, which is and not focus on the flash, the solar event, it's no longer a fearful event for you because you've done the inner work. And when you do the inner work and work on your traumas, all of these insecurities and fears begin to just kind of dissipate. It's amazing.
And the spiritual work in general is kind of a process of becoming less attached to the physical illusion and allowing ourselves to take on more of a perspective of how this creation process is actually happening from a spiritual dimension.
Well, yeah. Everything you see about mass media, having to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week to pay rent, to live in this physical building, or to pay your mortgage, to buy food, this physical stuff, you're toiling and focusing constantly on this physical illusion, this co-created reality, when that is, and that is by design. They don't want us being spiritual beings, spending just as much time feeding our soul as we do feeding our family, because we become hard to control and we become too powerful of co-creators. So all of this worldly stuff is done by design to draw us into this lower density way of thinking and solidify us in this little prison. And the more we let go of the physical world and start focusing on the spiritual world and which consciousness is, and clearing our conscience and clearing ourselves of traumas, that's where the power is.
So we could get into some of the questions a little bit now too. People have been wondering about the waves coming in and what the effects of these consciousness waves. How would you just even describe them? The waves of energy from the galaxy or from the sun that are affecting our consciousness in increasing ways right now?
Well, it is an energy, a galactic energy, a region that we travel. As we travel around, we go in and out of the equatorial of the galaxy. We're doing like this as we go around. At certain points, it causes us to float into an area that, for lack of a better word, is full of dust or particles. And all of that creates static in an electrical conduit as well. And as we flow through that, the dusts and particles come into our solar system, and it affects our sun, the electrical field of our sun. And it also draws in the energy from the north and south poles, causing the sun to to Micronova. And there's also feedback going, there's a relationship with the cosmic web, energy that flows back and forth bidirectionally. And it ends up building up, and it causes the sun to do the different types of novas that they do. And, that happens on a cycle. And there's nothing, as humans on this planet, know how hard we sit and pray or meditate, there's nothing we can do to stop it or change it. This event is supposed to change us, and we're trying to change it. It's a mechanism of the universe. It's a part of the one infinite creator. It's what God wants to occur as a catalyst to help its creation continue to evolve.
The raw contact books also stated that it was basically 1936, around then, that they said the increase in energies started to occur, and that we've been seeing an increase in energies on Earth continuously since then. And I think you've shared that it's going to get much more intense as we get closer to the event in 2033 or 2034.
Yes.
And I'd like to know more about the are people becoming more psychic right now as a result of this energy? Is this something people are working with more, and this is the catalyst already occurring?
Yes, the catalyst is already occurring. The energy has been affecting us for decades. And that's part of the reason we're having end time madness. Everyone is acting out crazy because they haven't dealt with their insecurities and traumas. And this energy is, for those who have done a lot of work, they are really connecting to their higher selves right now more than they ever have. They're seeing a lot of gains in their spiritual growth. But the majority of the planet are people they're just a mess. And these energies just make it worse. And we have not seen the worst of it yet. Building up over the next 10 years, people are going to get crazier and crazier. There's going to be more and more wars, more and more conflict. That's just how it's going to build up until the final event. And there's going to be solar stuff that's going to start occurring. We're going to start seeing signs that the sun is doing something a little different. Or, they'll try to explain it on the news or something, as something from a big cycle, or who knows. But yeah, I think that's.
So for the people doing the work, will they see continuous improvement? Will it become easier for them to stay in a flow state of consciousness where they're in a joyful place?
I believe so, but that depends on how well they're able to separate themselves from the rest of the chaos. Mm-hmm. That's something that we're going to have to deal with. Unless you can totally separate yourself, buy a house in the mountains or whatever, like we're trying to do. Uh-huh. Unless you can do that, then it's going to be a struggle to maintain your vibration, because you're going to be like this one little positive charge around all these other negative charges. And what happens? It'll turn the positive into a negative over time if you're immersed in it. So it's going to be a struggle for everyone to maintain these new abilities and spiritual. And leading up until the solar event, it's going to be difficult for even the elect, or the ones who are really working towards ascension, just because of the polarity and the vibration of everyone else around us. It's going to affect us.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully we can mentally prepare ourselves for things just to get a little bit worse around every subjective area of our reality.
And nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to hear, humans are just so beautiful and angelic that some beings decided to come down and save us, or something happened to fix it all for us. That's not how it works. And I'm sorry, I would like, if all of these other people's stories were true, I would be speaking it louder than anyone. But that is not a realistic view. People are trying to create their own little reality bubbles, like the little comfort zone to suck their thumbs, instead of just taking part in the bigger reality that's going on.
Do you think there's any value in people, having sun weather tracking apps that track the incoming energies from the sun?
Yes, yeah. I mean, you can predict how. I mean, we keep a close eye on the sun activity through suspicious observers, and it usually lines up whenever we have some solar activity. I'm out driving around, I get flipped off, or someone cuts me off, and when you start paying attention to these little cycles in human behavior, well, you can kind of predict what kind of day you will have and prepare yourself a little bit.
So what would you say is the most important thing for people to be doing right now in preparations? Is it appropriate for there to be a balance between thinking about survival, thinking about getting away from others? Is there, should everyone be farming right now? Should we all be learning about growing our own food, do you think? Or do we have some time before we have to, stop worrying about the grocery stores?
Yeah, I mean, everyone should really go back to how people were in the 1950s. If solar event happened in the 1950s, most people would be okay. Just about everyone in the 50s had at least some experience of growing up or having family growing up without electricity or plumbing, and they know how to can foods, they knew how to grow gardens. I mean, all of this stuff is not only good for preparing you, but it's also good, it's a spiritual thing, tending gardens and growing your food in the earth and putting your energy into the food that you're going to eat, um, is very therapeutic and very healthy for you, let alone the health of the actual healthiness of the food itself. So yes, there needs to be a balance that, people need to find a way to not be so reliant on the grocery store. And, you know, there are ways of growing food on your um, back patio of your apartment. Even, you don't have to grow all of your food, but being able to grow food, having that skill is the most important thing. I mean, you're not going to be able to store 1,000 tomatoes, and when the sun pops, then eat tomatoes for forever. That stuff goes bad. You have to know how to grow more. So it's a whole different way of thinking that is needed. We're totally locked into this electronic world, um, and you know, some people order their food online even, uh, or have it order it and have the grocery store deliver it. We've become completely dependent on this on technology.
So maybe we could jump forward a little bit, and I could ask, so what is it that people actually will experience right when the solar flash happens? Is there a need for people to go inside? Do people have to make sure that well, at one point you said we need to be very detoxed, and we can be affected based on how clean our body is at that point.
Yeah, I mean, just like, how we see the end time madness building up in people as these energies increase, people that have been doing the inner work, they're not having that. It's because these energies pass through you. And each little trauma you have is an energetic in your field. There's an energetic scar, or there's something there left back from that trauma. And these energies, they can't pass through you. They hit these little energetic things in your body, and it just aggravates them and it agitates them. Um, and yeah, and having yourself detoxed is, keeping yourself detoxed as much as possible is important. But I don't think there's really anywhere that you can hide from the actual flash event. Even you know deep in the ground, this energy is going to penetrate.
So
You have to prepare yourself for the energy, and not try to just guard your current way of being and think you can like go down in a bunker.
Mhm,
Uh, this is this event, it penetrates the planet.
mhm. And so immediately after it happens, what will people experience? Will there be a lightning effect? Will people, is it,
I
is,
think it's going to be different for everyone depending on where they are. Each person is going to have their own kind of experience, but um, I think there there's going to be physiological. We're going to, just like, if we were lived close to an energetic source that uh, if you live close to an energetic source, that energetic source affects your physiology and your way of thinking, and because we're physical and electrical beings, so we're going to be affected. Physiologically, some people may not have a good experience, but others will have a better. There's going to be many, as many different experiences as there are people and types of people on this planet. But no one's going to, immediately be able to start reading everyone else's mind. It's not. That's not what it's. That's not what this event is about. It's about giving us an opportunity to start over and increasing our connectivity to each other to where we have a better chance this cycle of succeeding, and our consciousness will be expanding as a collective, but individually as well. It's going to be a slow process. It's not just going to, the solar fascia is going to happen and we're going to have all of these ascended abilities and immediately stop fighting with each other. There's still going to be negative. There's going to still be murders. There's still going to be bad stuff that happens because the fourth density positive and negatives we're going to be here together.
It's kind of amazing how many people are still unaware. If they simply turn off Wi-Fi on more of their devices around them, they'll feel better already just by taking a break from all technology and stepping away.
Yeah, you can shut it off at night when you sleep.
Yeah, and even if the power goes out of my house, I've noticed briefly I will feel an elevated experience when everything is off. It's just shocking that the technology itself is kind of been holding us back in a spiritual way because of just this heavy drain on our energy fields that it's hard to recognize unless you're experimenting and getting away from it. But so having no technology after the solar event, would you say there's basically nothing that would use electricity that's going to work after the solar event?
That's the way that's what I picked up from it, is that all electronics were, not pretty
And
much.
there's no way we can shield it with Faraday cages. We can't.
Well, I mean, even if you do, I mean, how are you going to charge it? I mean, the EMPs that come from this event are going to destroy solar panels. There are a certain number of giant transformers in the United States that would have to be manufactured, and how are they going to manufacture it without electricity? So it would take decades for us to come back. They will start building electronics and all of that stuff again, but it'll take decades to rebuild that type of infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. And will it be different kinds of technology that, that won't look like our technology, so we can't even necessarily predict unless we have some kind of advanced understanding?
It'll be a mixture. We'll be redoing our old technologies. They're very sound technologies. We'll, be rebuilding, our electrical grids and that sort of thing. But we'll also start having more and more advanced technologies coming online, but it won't be widely available to people. Just because they develop a portal to where you can portal around doesn't mean you're going to get the portal. There's, however many billion people on this planet, not everybody's going to have a flying car. It's going to take years and years for all of this stuff to kind of filter out and be developed again and find its way to the far reaches of the planet. It's not like, aliens are going to drop off a technology and they're like, here, hit replicate. Now you have 50,000 of these new technologies, hand them out and replicate them again and replicate them forever. It's not like that. It's not going to be that magical of an experience. We're going to have technologies that will help benefit few people, and then those technologies will be built out over time and they'll benefit more and more and more people.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that there will be a point in the next 10 years when people have enough indication of whether or not their city is too big and they should get away from where they're currently living? Or will it be where we can just kind of leave after the solar event if people are, if it's too crowded in our city?
I mean, the cities, when this sort of thing happens, um, people panic and start stealing from each other and looting and all of this stuff. So there is a reason. I know it sucks. A lot of people just don't have the ability to get out of the city, and you just need to have an exit plan and have a place where you're going to go in mind. Um, if you don't have a plan when the lights go out and the water's not being pumped anymore, and you just have like a few days worth of food from the grocery store, that's it. That's a situation of your own making. If you've known about this stuff and you refuse to prepare for it, or you think it's too scary to think about it in detail to prepare for it, or whatever, you've made your decision.
Mhm. So I guess when you say exit plan, you're thinking getting, you know, just relatively out into rural areas so that there won't be as many people who could potentially come and try to take your food or um, something
Yeah,
like that.
it's best to have a place prepared where you have food and supplies stored. Even if you get together, people are like, I can't afford, 5 acres of land, and all of these prepper things. Well, you get together with like 4 or 5 families and you come together and you purchase a small piece of land and you prepare. Um, that's really the only thing you can really do. I mean, um, there are going to be ETs that come down and try to help us and bring technologies and stuff, but many of us are going to be um, traumatized and a little leery of the ETs coming in. So they're going to have to approach us and the right way. But I mean, there's going to be a period of time where we're going to be on our own. And even when ETs and other people try to come and help us, it takes a while for those supplies and for that infrastructure to come about. I mean, I know this is a fact. I was in the Texas State Guard. I was FEMA certified and responded for hurricanes and other natural disasters. And the amount of preparation that goes behind, the responses is amazing. And your average person, we saw time after time in hurricanes, people were totally unprepared, and they found themselves in very precarious situations. It's incumbent upon you to prepare.
So when the solar event happens, um, does it change the magnetics of the Earth? Is that when the pole shift happens?
Yes, it absolutely changes the electromagnetic field of the Earth. It causes Earth to tilt on its axis and then come back, causing all sorts of destructive waves and weather patterns, causes chaos. So, um, there will be freak snowstorms in some parts of the world. There'll be deluges of rain in others and floods. It it does reap havoc on the planet. But when the planet rights itself and the water goes back into the ocean basins and people come out and look around, the Earth does have a different frequency because our sun, has a different frequency.
So we'll be able to connect to this frequency at some level and feel uplifted by it.
Well, I mean, it just depends. If you're not an uplifted person already, then it may just be background noise or something that even bothers you, like a ringing in the ears or something.
Mhm.
It's going to be a small percentage of the people that find it very uplifting. I think because a lot of people, they just have so much trauma and even more trauma after the event. So
Yeah, I guess it is just a matter of time, though, before we are able to finally rebuild. But you say it will take lifetimes, and I know the Law of One has talked about the transition period being the estimated between 100 and 700 years, and you've said even longer is what you were shown, 900 years.
I've shown up to 900 years
Mhm.
of people living and dying, living and dying, living and dying before we, you know, reach a point of, you know, being solid.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's great advice with getting together with other families and trying to, form friendships with people around us who live near us, so that even if our cars don't work, we still have some ability to, or the gas isn't available, we still have some ability to you know, get along with our neighbors and form what we need to form and work together in the ways we need to work together. So that's kind of like a great sales pitch to meeting your neighbors if you don't know who your neighbors are, and exposing them gently to some new information if they need it. And potentially, if our society starts breaking down more, that's when it's more important to make sure people trust you, even if they don't agree with you on your politics or something, that they can still be your friend.
Yeah, and you don't have to tell people about this big scary solar flash and aliens and all this stuff. You can just say, hey, listen, the world's getting crazy, right? You see what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, China. All these people have nuclear weapons and they've threatened to use them recently, and so society itself is collapsing. Why don't we just get together and like come up with a plan, use a little bit of our money and our skills, come together and create a safe haven for our families in case stuff gets really crazy. You don't have to totally indoctrinate them into the whole alien
Yeah,
solar flash
yeah.
thing.
It does seem like our society has kind of been programmed into giving power back upwards and do some authority structure. And what we're needing is to take back our freedom and on the local level to start with. And once we can recognize that we are free to operate as people, under free will principles, in our communities, then we can kind of have some way to resist if some kind of tyrannical element is trying to infringe on our way of living. We'll at least have people around us who will vote with us that we don't want to give into any of the mess that might be coming our way. Like the nanotechnology stuff or the transhumanism stuff. Do you think that's going to eventually be something the government has its hand in?
Well, the government has its hand in it now.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, the transhumanism uh, in people's foods, the nanite type things that have been there for years, these vaccinations, the 5G, that is all tied together. Musk's Skynet that he's building, it's all tied in together. And uh, within probably 5 years at the most, we'll start seeing them pushing track and trace methods on us, digital currencies, and to where they can completely control and observe everything we do. And that's happening in the short term.
Mhm. Well, I think that might be a good update, and I do encourage people to ask more questions um, and share your feedback, because this is a lot of stuff to process, I know, and it's like we're just figuring this out collectively. How can we make Essential Works TV a helpful platform for people to learn information that is needed at this time and grow in the ways that is needed, to prepare and to co-create your reality in a much more efficient and joyful way. There's really nothing holding us back from recognizing the profound peace and perfection of the present moment, which is where everything is coming from. We can always come back to the present and always find joy in the present. Um, so thanks a lot, Corey, for this little update here. And I think we can probably make this one free on YouTube. I think this would be important for people to see. If that sounds good.
Yeah, and next week we'll shoot some more of these. That will be exclusive content on ascensionworks.tv. Um, and I want to thank all of the people that have come over to Essential Works TV in the last couple of weeks. Not only that, after these criminal elements within our community leaked my deposition to the public, the day after Christmas, we were afraid to even look at all of the emails because we were afraid it was just going to be full of hate. But thank you, all of you, for the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails that we received to all of these different accounts saying that you back us 100%, that you understand what we've been through, that you've watched the community collapse. Many of you have shared your own horrifying experiences in this community, of being ripped off financially and by doing business with each other, or by having rumors spread about them and being backstabbed. Um, I've hundreds and hundreds of you have told me that y'all left the community uh, like in the last 2 or 3 years because it was becoming so toxic, and that you're focusing on your inner work and on yourselves, on getting yourselves to the right place. That is amazing for me to hear. I had really lost all faith in the people in this community, but to find out that most of you have left because of it becoming so toxic, and showing me your support, and even going to Light Warrior Legal Fund, lightwarriorlegalfund.org, and donating. A bunch of y'all have made donations to help us in all of these financial battles against all of the corrupt people in ufology. Stacy and I really appreciate it. There have been times where Stacy and our family have lived in literal fear of our lives. All of your positive thoughts coming to us have really helped us, and we really appreciate it. So I just want to say, join us next week. We're going to have more Q&As and also updates. I'm going to be bringing more information about what's recently happened on the moon. Some pretty interesting things have happened there. So I have some updates on that. And also, Fabio Santos is going to help me put together some more of my SSP updates that we're going to put out on YouTube and Ascension Works TV very soon. So thank everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.